Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again with another exciting horror review.
Yes, we are.
I'm Jimmy.
And I'm JS.
And today, at long last you might be thinking, we are reviewing Insidious, one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Of all time?
Of all time, really.
Wow.
It is, you know, for me, this movie kind of, every so often there's a movie that sort of like reinvigorates the genre. I think like Drag Me to Hell is a good example of that. I would say Saw was a good example of that. I would say, you know, even the Scream series like really got people excited about, you know, the horror craze again. Insidious is one of those movies and really was sort of like cemented James Wan's legacy, I think, as like he's made a mark on movies.
All right. I tend to go back to Saw actually more than Insidious as my entry point into James Wan, or at least being on his team.
But I'll say, as a sophomore, you know, follow-up to Saw, really horror-wise, it's like really, you know, you can get lucky once, but you do it twice.
Yeah.
Two in a row is.
And this year he's done it again. So let's talk a little bit about Insidious. And of course we're gonna get into spoiler territory.
Yeah, we'll get into a little spoilers.
So it's best if you have already seen the movie.
But if you haven't seen it, please go see it because it really is worth watching. There's like really like 3 different movies that kind of take place in Insidious.
Okay.
There's the haunted house movie, where weird things are happening. They don't know how it's happening. There's the weird sort of like paranormal activity sort of movie where you have people almost like the woman from Poltergeist in the house, like coming and trying to film stuff, and you know, they have their spectrometers and they're going around, they're doing all that. And then you have like the weird, creepy, freaky kid element of it. If they had just gone down one of those avenues, like a lot of movies tend to do, it wouldn't have been as so effective. But I like how the movie kind of takes these little turns and twists towards different genres.
Sure.
So
what I love the first half of Insidious. I think it's genuinely scary. All that stuff with the baby monitor, you know, hearing noises up in the room and taking her time, the character's time, but of course James Wan directing it as such. I thought that worked really, really well. And they do something that people never do in horror movies, which is move. You know, when they're in a haunted house, you're just like, get out of that house. But they move like in the first act.
Yeah.
But it follows them, which, you know, is even scarier.
Yeah.
But when the paranormal investigator shows up, and I believe she's played by Lynn Shay, I'm sure she's great in other stuff, but I just felt she didn't quite mesh well with the others who were really going for like almost like realistic in their reactions to stuff. And her 2 stooges as assistants, I mean, it
doesn't work for you?
Yeah, I mean, some comic relief on purpose there, but yeah, it almost, like you said, it feels like 2 movies at that point, and I guess that will work for some people, won't work for others.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, what's interesting is like the third act for me really, I think, was sort of a perfect end for the movie for me, especially, you know, you get into like the dream world and seeing all the ghosts and like the way it's done stylistically, I think is just great, you know, with like the really like, you know, jerky actions and stuff like that. Like it's very surreal. I love that. And then there's like this demon character in the movie, which we can't not address. The demon character, there are some genuinely terrifying moments with that character. Just the way that it's done. Yeah. You know, you get these little glimpses of it, but I think the one that really gets me the most is when they're at the table with like the person.
Yeah, the mother-in-law character.
The mother-in-law, and they cut to Patrick Wilson's face, and it's like right behind him.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a really good moment.
In broad daylight, no less. Yeah, that's very scary.
Yeah, and it's just such a nonchalant sort of like scene. You're just like, oh yeah, you know, we're just talking about this stuff. Like, you're not really expecting there to be any kind of, you know, jumpy moment there. So it's really, it catches you. The movie really does catch you off guard a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about Insidious that really, really made me love it so much was the ending.
Okay.
The ending of the movie where we learn that it's Patrick Wilson is actually he was like this close to being fully possessed by by this spirit, this old woman that wants to like take his soul.
Yeah.
And now we know. So let's talk about that. I mean, how did
it's
that work
some
for you?
deep stuff. I mean,
it is deep.
Where it gets, I love the subject matter of it. Like when they find out that their son can astral project or whatever it is, and that the father also has that gift curse, and so he goes in there to save his son, and there are some consequences to that.
Right.
I took issue with where the film left us off because it was almost, it was very open-ended.
Right.
And I wanted closure. But, this year we got chapter 2.
Right.
And that says something to me that they called it chapter 2, not just Insidious 2.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely a continuation of the story here.
Yeah, and it really just picks up where that left off.
Yeah.
But I think like one of the things that was just like it's just really unnerving, really, when they're looking at the old childhood photos. You know, Rose Byrne is like, why am I not seeing any photos of you? And they're just flipping through, and it's like at first I thought it was just an error, and then you see them as he gets older. There's just closer and closer, and closer and closer. Like the whole thing with the camera at the end, that really worked for me.
Okay, and the sequel ties into all of this so well, and
I think we're gonna be reviewing the sequel as well.
Okay,
so
great.
We can save our thoughts on Insidious 2 for another day. But
awesome.
Let us know what you think. Do you like Insidious? Do you think it's as good as I think it is, or
do you have some reservations, perhaps?
Who knows?
And keep checking back every day because we're doing a different horror movie all October, leading up to Halloween.
So, for Movie Clips, I'm Jimmy.
And I'm JS.
Thanks for watching.